This is Jason Montoya, Chief of Staff of the NMPRC. Good morning. Today is November 4th, 2020. This is a test for the YouTube live video.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Commissioner Byrd. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Well rested?
I am.
Good.
Sure. Good morning, Commissioner Espinoza.
Good morning, Mr. Chief of Staff. I'm going to mute myself for a moment, okay?
Okay, thank you. Should be a few minutes.
Thank you. 10-4.
Good morning, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. How are you?
Good morning, Chief of Staff. I'm doing good. What about you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning. You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great, thanks. I found the link just before you sent it.
Oh, okay, no problem. Anytime. We currently have all commissioners present with the exception of Commissioner Hall. I think she'll be joining us here shortly, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And do we have 9:30 going here?
Mr. Chairman, yes, we do. I don't see that Michael Smith has joined us, but we do have Judy Amer if needed.
Okay, let's hang on one more minute, and if he's not here, we'll start.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Hall.
How are you, Jason?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Great, great. Hi, good morning, Commissioner
Good.
Fishman,
Good
and
morning.
whoever else is here.
And all other commissioners.
All the commissioners,
morning.
right? I can't see all's here yet.
Good morning.
Commissioners, real quick, I wanted you to know that I am trying a different feature. I am sharing my screen, which actually shows the agenda for those that are viewing via YouTube. I will also share my screen with the PowerPoint presentations and go slide by slide so the audience and the viewers can actually see what we see.
Terrific.
I like it.
Okay, well, let's get underway. And I think what I'm going to do is take our newly re-elected commissioner and have her do the pledge and the state pledge. Cynthia?
Yes?
Did you hear me?
Hello? Yes, I can.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, do you ask me to do it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol, perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you. And so I'll just take a second to congratulate you, Commissioner Hall, on your reelection.
Thank you.
And now officially congratulate Joe Maestas, who will be joining the commission in January. So
That is correct. That is
Absolutely.
correct, Mr. Chair. Congratulations to both of you. I believe also Joseph Maestas is on the line as well. Joe, would you like to say a few words before you have to hang up?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Espinoza. Once again, I'm sleep deprived after a long election night, but I'm really pleased with the outcome and the victory. And as a commissioner-elect, I really look forward to working with all of you that will remain on the commission. I want to thank Commissioner Espinoza for her service to not just District 3, but the entire state of New Mexico. And to the staff, my message to you is that, keep the faith. I realize that things can seem very dire at this time, but this too shall pass. And, my, whatever it's worth, my 2 cents is, perhaps with the passage of Constitutional Amendment 1 that'll change the PRC now from elected to appointed, that the governor and the entire executive and legislative branches will kind of lay down their arms and start working on truly addressing the root causes of the PRC, like lack of funding. I'd like to see the PRC come out from the State Personnel Office. So those are just a few changes that I'd like to see. But you can rest assured that I won't be a defender of the status quo, and whatever change I aspire to make, it's going to be in consensus with my colleagues, and it will be for the betterment of not just the staff, but the entire state of New Mexico. So I look forward to it. Business goes on of PRC, and the challenges are great, but I know that the commission and the staff are up to it. So hopefully this will usher a new era of cooperation among, again, all legislative, the executive, and the attorney general. I think consumer advocacy leaves a lot to be desired, and hopefully the AG will come to the table and truly advocate for the ratepayers. So thank you, Commissioner Espinoza, for the opportunity to say a few words.
Well, thank you, and you're going to do a great job. I just know it. So I congratulate you.
okay, thank you. And Jason, if you haven't hung up yet, next week we'll be discussing as a commission items that we've unanimously decided we want to present to the legislature. And I hope you're listening in and catching up with that. Did we already lose him?
No, I'm here. I wasn't sure. I would really be most appreciative if you can send me what you're thinking about in terms of a legislative agenda. And I don't know if that'll be a final ratification. Time is getting short. I think most other stakeholders, local governments have already, adopted or ratified their legislative agenda. So yeah, if you could send that to me, I'd be most appreciative. Thanks.
Okay, looking forward to working with you.
Can you guys see me?
Oh, there he is. All I saw was Hack Guard, and I know you're better than that.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the opportunity, and have a great meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Joe.
Consideration and approval of the agenda.
I'll move the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Mike or Judy, could you take the?
Yes. Could we take a roll call on this vote? Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Espinoza,
C.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved 5-0. I mean, the regular agenda. Sorry.
Very good, thank you. Consideration and approval of minutes for the 14th and the 21st.
So moved.
Second.
And
Oh, sorry.
that's okay.
Commissioners, I'm back, so I can take this role if you want.
We were getting used to Judy. She's going to take this one. And Mike, we might let you in on the next one.
Actually,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair, I think what Mike needs to do is definitely go back and read what we just approved, because we approved it without reading it for the listening public.
Oh, okay, yes, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
For which one are you talking about?
For the items of the approval of the agenda.
We don't normally read the whole thing.
No, that's only for consent agenda.
Yeah. Oh, okay, we haven't
actually
approved.
only at number 3, consideration and approval of prior meeting minutes.
Okay, I thought we were on consent. Sorry, guys.
So those,
I
those,
do
would,
have
those would be.
I have a question.
Sure.
Commissioner?
But
Go ahead.
on the agenda, it actually says that item number 3 in regular action will be removed from the agenda. We didn't actually do that.
That is true. So do we need to vote on that, Mike?
Yes, we do.
Yes. You need
Yes,
to
because-
remove it from the agenda and then do another vote.
Okay,
So I'll move that we remove item 3, 19-00286-UT from the agenda.
Second.
and Judy, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Espinoza,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
And now let's re-vote on the amended agenda. First of all, I'll move to pass it. Second?
I'll second for you.
Thank you. Just throw me a bone.
You got it.
Judith, go ahead and
Commissioner Fishman,
aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Espinoza,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Sure.
The agenda as amended is approved. 5-0.
Okay, consideration and approval of prior meeting minutes.
So moved. I
Second.
messed up the last part.
Now I'm going to see if Mike is still here. Mike, you call the roll.
I am. Appears my fox has not come back to attack my chickens while I've been waiting. So
Oh, okay.
I've been distracted because right as the meeting was about to start, I had a ruckus outside.
Nice.
The motion is to approve the meeting minutes for October 14th, 2020 special open meeting and the October 21st, 2020 regular open meeting. Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Espinoza,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
and Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
The prior meeting minutes are approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, introduction of special guests. Brian, are you on?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. How are you?
Oh, Brian Haverly. Okay, good to see you this morning. And I
Real
guess
quick,
you're going to do the
Mr.
introduction.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, this is Jason.
Sure.
It's fine if we want it to, we have a consideration and approval of professional service contracts before
Oh, sorry, I
the
skipped.
special guest. If you want to come back to it, but since we approved the agenda in this order, I might want to just bring that to your attention.
Okay. Brian, we'll come back to you in just a minute.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. So consideration and approval of professional services contracts. Jason, is this yours?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Jim Williamson, and he'll give the presentation.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. The proposed small contract for your consideration is with the contractor Cybatech, DBA CodePal. The general service to be rendered by Cybatech is to develop the software and database where Fire Protection Fund recipients would apply online via a website hosted by the Fire Marshal for the annual Fire Protection Fund distribution. To give you an idea, the PRC distributed $61 million in FY20 to the 132 municipal and county Fire Protection Fund recipients. So it's a very large and very important process. Cybatech was awarded the calculation portion of this distribution in FY20. So that same contractor would tie in the application for the funds along with the existing calculation software. The one-time development cost of the online application is $24,000. That's a one-time charge plus $18,000, which would recur annually for hosting, maintenance, and updates. The procurement qualifies as a sole source and will be listed at GSD as required for the 13-day period. The contract complies with the provisions of the procurement code and there's sufficient budget. With that introduction, I yield for any questions. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions?
No. Jim?
Go ahead, Cynthia.
Yes, ma'am.
I just noticed you have a typo in the second line. You left out the word public out of Public Regulation Commission.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you.
Otherwise, it looks fine.
Thank you.
Okay. I move for approval of the contract. Is there a second?
Second.
Mike, please call the roll.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Espinoza,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
and Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioners, the professional services contract is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Introduction of special guests. Come on back, Brian.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, it is my great pleasure today to introduce Mr. Dennis Arreola, the CEO of Avangrid, and Mr. Pedro Azagra Blasquez. He is the Chief Development Officer and Executive Committee member of Iberdrola, and he is also a member of Avangrid's Board of Directors. I will now turn it over to Mr. Arreola to introduce himself to you.
Thank you, Brian, and good morning. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Chief of Staff, and other guests, really appreciate this opportunity here for a couple minutes. Again, I'm Dennis Arreola, and I'm proud to be the Chief Executive Officer of Avangrid. And as you know, Avangrid signed a merger agreement with PNM Resources on October 20th. I'm proud to be a first-generation American, and I've worked in the utility industry for over 26 years now, and I have firsthand experience of what it takes to provide safe and reliable utility service to customers at a reasonable cost. It's something I've always taken pride in and something that has always been a priority in every company that I've worked with. I'm pleased to be at Avangrid, which has served customers in the northeast part of the United States for over 170 years. We have over $36 billion in assets and operations across 24 states throughout the country. And we're one of the largest and financially strongest energy companies in the United States. The other thing that I'm proud to share with you is that we've been recognized by outside organizations for our emphasis on ethics, how we treat the environment, and our focus on other social and corporate governance issues. Those things, ES and G, is very, very important to our company and our stakeholders and our board of directors. At Avangrid, we have two lines of business, what we call Avangrid Networks, which is our utilities business, where we own 8 electric and gas utilities in the Northeast. And we serve approximately 3.3 million customers. And we truly understand the role that utilities play in the communities. We have to be engaged. We want to be leaders, and we want to be committed to supporting the utilities and the communities in the service areas where we provide that service. The other part of our business is what we call Avangrid Renewables. And we've got 6.6 gigawatts of electric generation from renewables, both solar and wind. We're also expanding into offshore wind. And we participate those services in 22 different states, including a significant presence in New Mexico. We're in Commissioner Byrd's District 2 with our 300 megawatt El Cabo wind facility. And we're in the process of completing another facility there, a 300 megawatt facility called La Jolla. So we're proud to be in New Mexico, and we're looking forward to continuing to expand there. So again, just briefly, I wanted to say thank you very much for this opportunity to introduce myself. We really believe that New Mexico has a bright future, and we want to be a part of that growth and that success in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, and looking forward to hopefully a smooth docket with your merger.
Thank you.
So we have a second name on here, Pedro. Is he planning to say hi, or?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Pedro Azagra will introduce himself to you as well.
Okay, thank you.
So good morning to everybody. This is Pedro Azagra. I am, the Chief Development Officer, one of the officers at Iberdrola Parent Company, member of the Executive Committee. And also I'm a director in Avangrid. I've been, I was in the US for some time, then, many different positions. And now I have also been appointed by the board of Avangrid, to lead, the regulatory approval process together with Dennis, our CEO, as he has also explained. So, we are here also to explain Iberdrola. We are, one of those few large companies right now globally that has been, for a long time focused on renewables. It's not so long ago when we were very alone fighting, for climate change and many other things. And I think that's one of the priorities we've been fighting, since the late 90s and early 2000s. And that's why, we're one of the companies with lowest, emissions of any company globally. I think, as you know, Iberdrola is the control shareholder of Avangrid. As we do in many other, country level holding companies, Avangrid has always been managing its own business, okay, including the utilities within its network line of business. I think Iberdrola and Avangrid, know the importance of local management. I think based on my, international experience and looking at many other companies, Americans, French, German, many other, global companies, when they actually look at the local way of managing the companies, it's not really local. It's actually, the parent company running those companies. And you have, tens and hundreds of, foreigners going into the utilities, going into the companies and the subsidiaries. I think in our case, I'm very pleased to say that after, 12 years that we've been having a very clear, global approach, to doing businesses, each, of the 8 existing, Avangrid network utilities continue to make its own day-to-day with local operational decisions, okay? But if you go to the holding company of Avangrid, I think Dennis is the person in charge. He's appointing the management, and I think I can go on into other geographies as well. So we're very proud that, you will see very few Spaniards, if not any at all, in our, country presence, because, we believe this business is local. We need to benefit from the global approach in many things, but I think it's a locally run business, and that's how we run our company. So I just wanted to say hello. Long time I was in Albuquerque, and for 15 years, more than 15 years, giving one of these chair, in the University of New Mexico, linked to to our prince at that time, now king in Spain. So we've been there for a long time, and as Dennis said, also you're in renewables. Long time ago, we've been there. So from that point of view, a pleasure to meet chairman, commissioner, senior staff, and all of you. I'm looking forward to seeing you, if possible, in person. But I know it's legals and also traveling is not very easy right now.
Thank you very much. Great to meet both of you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Valerie.
May I speak with Pedro and Dennis?
Oh, you're going to speak in Espanol?
That's right. Hola Pedro y Dennis, bienvenidos a ustedes a Nuevo México y a nuestra comisión. Ya yo estoy saliendo de la comisión, pero me gustaría saber qué vas a hacer por la gente y los consumidores y en el estado. Es un placer que ustedes están con nosotros hoy. Gracias.
Gracias, Commissioner. Would you like me to answer in English or Spanish for everyone?
Spanish, and I
In
want an
Spanish.
answer from both of you.
All right. Well, yo voy a empezar, Commissioner. Primero, antes que nada, para nosotros va a ser un placer estar en el estado. El negocio que tenemos nosotros está focalizado en el consumidor. Es la primera cosa que pensamos cuando nos levantamos en la mañana y es la última
Está
cosa.
bien.
Entonces,
es muy importante.
En cada compañía que tenemos, el consumidor es la primera prioridad y eso no cambia. Entonces, para nosotros, como dijo Pedro, el local management va a estar autorizado a trabajar con los consumidores, trabajar con la comunidad, hacer las decisiones que se tienen que hacer para que el servicio sea lo mejor que se pueda con toda la regulación que tenemos. Entonces, el plan es ser parte de la familia de Avangrid. No le va a quitar nada a los consumidores o los empleados de PNM, pero más que nada van a ser parte de una familia donde van a tener acceso a más activos y experiencia para ser una mejor compañía para prestar ese servicio a los consumidores.
Qué bueno, porque los employees también, hay muchas que trabajan ahí por muchos años y sí. Gracias a decir eso, porque yo voy a dormir más mejor después.
Sí, Commissioner, este negocio no se puede prestar el servicio sin buenos empleados. Y para nosotros es importante tener un equipo que tiene la experiencia, que está dedicada a prestar el servicio que tenemos que prestar.
Qué suave, qué bueno, porque la gente de Nuevo México y de mi district aquí en District 3 no tienen muchos, resources y tienen muchos, ¿cómo se dice? Bills to pay y no tienen mucho dinero. So, cuida, porque yo no voy a estar allá después. So, ya yo estoy saliendo. So, cuida la gente, por favor.
Con mucho gusto.
Muchas gracias, Commissioner Espinoza. I understood a few words of that, mostly that you were asking him to keep rates down. And
I was asking her, yes, you got that right. And I can translate.
What I'd like to do, because we have this docket coming up, I don't want to get too conversational here and have somebody object. So if there are any other kind of...
I was just welcoming them, and I was letting them know that I will be gone, but we always look out for the consumers because people in northern New Mexico, especially District 3, don't have very many means. And that's all I said. So don't you worry about the dockets. I just was letting them know that, I could look out for the employees because there are some good employees there too. That's what I always looked out for whenever there was an acquisition, and that was, to treat people fairly through the transition and keep jobs. And that's all. Thank you. Okay. Gracias, Dennis y Pedro. Gracias mucho.
Terrific. Pedro, go ahead.
And let me just mix English and Spanish so you see different accents as well. Hablando en español, de forma sencilla, creo que Iberdrola y Avangrid, nuestra historia es de crecimiento. Our story is about growth. So, everything we have been doing in the last 20 years, when I joined this company, we were the 28th, company globally. We are right now the second or the third. Por lo tanto, cuando vamos a cualquier geografía, en New Mexico ya estamos, no estamos yendo por primera vez. Siempre nuestro objetivo es growth, growth y growth. Por lo tanto, no somos una empresa, que cares about, jobs, cutting and, optimization. in the sense of, just, getting penny out of everything, no, we want growth, growth, growth. That's the important thing for us, keep us in mind because, we are here to grow.
Thank you so much.
Commissioners, any other thoughts or comments? Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming, and great to cyber meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, commissioners. We appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. We got a couple of presentations today, and fortunately, we also have a very short agenda of dockets. So, David and Bill, thank you for coming for Excel and SBS, and looking forward to hearing your update.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and commissioners. It's a pleasure to be presenting to you. Usually Bill and I try to come over a couple times a year and meet with you, but under the circumstances, we all know that's impossible to do. So I appreciate you giving us this opportunity this morning, Mr. Chairman. First of all, let me say congratulations to Commissioner Hall on her re-election. We look forward to continue working with her. And then our warmest regards to Commissioner Espinoza. We've known her for quite a while, and we really appreciate her dedication to the public of New Mexico, which includes everybody, including Xcel Energy and SBS. So I am David Hudson. I'm the president of Southwestern Public Service Company, and we're one of the 4 operating companies under Xcel Energy. And we are the electric utility that operates in New Mexico and Texas. And actually, SPS is a New Mexico corporation. We originated out of Roswell in the Pecos Valley, going south of Roswell. And through various integrations, beginning in the first of the 1900s, we've become Southwestern Public Service Company since the 1940s. What we're going to talk about is we've got a lot of major activity going on in the SPS system, and I just want to update you on it. This map here just shows you some of the things that we're going to talk about. We're going to be giving you an update on the Sagamore wind farm that's well under construction just south of Portales. I'm going to be talking about our 2 coal plants, and one of them is just across the border from Clovis near Muleshoe, Texas. It's Tulk Station. We've talked about that before. And then if you go look up around Amarillo, you'll see Harrington Station coal plant. We're going to be talking about that. So I wanted to present this to just show you all of our generation resources on the SPS system. Of course, the red ones are owned by SPS Xcel Energy, and the blue ones are purchase power arrangements that we have. So this just gives you a good reference also on our system. Of course, we are in the Eastern Interconnect, whereas PNM and El Paso are in the Western Interconnect. We're part of the Southwest Power Pool. We're actually a fierce advocate for our New Mexico customers at the SPP. We've done a lot of great things that have benefited Southeast New Mexico. So I'll be talking a little bit about that, and also what we're seeing in the oil patch down in Lee and Eddy counties. It's very interesting. So Bill Grant is also here with me, and you know Bill, he's the Vice President of Regulatory and Strategic Planning here at SPS. So we'll just go to the next slide. Just first of all, on the COVID status, right now, we have 2 New Mexico employees that have tested positive and are currently active positive. Last week we had 0, but we've been running pretty low numbers, 1 to 2, but we are really seeing a surge on our Texas side of the border. We're up to 21 employees that have active positive right now. We're also doing a lot of outreach to our residential customers. Of course, we have the residential moratorium that we started way back in March. We are seeing increasing balances from our residential classes, and we can give you, I think we already file information on that every month. We have started disconnects in Texas, just to let you know that. And by sending out the notices, we actually get a lot more performance out of the customers are reaching payment arrangements. We're really stressing with them that we will work with the customer and we understand the unique challenges with the economy and customers' ability to pay, that we will work on payment arrangements with customers, and we're having a lot of success. I think we had, like in Texas, 1,700 customers subject to disconnect, and it ended up going down to about 150 customers that we actually sent final notices out to disconnect. So once they're getting these, they are realizing they need to be paying. So just giving you an update on that. Then on our Sagamore wind project, that's 522 megawatts. We are actually, it's going to be 240 turbines up in the air. And we actually have about 121 of them already up in the air right now. So we're doing really good on the construction of that. We had a lot of challenges from the Southwest Power Pool, and then also with the COVID from Vestas, sourcing materials from Europe and stuff like that. But we are on schedule, and we know that the project will be in service in December. And we actually are getting quite a bit of test energy out of the project right now. And this is the second of the two projects. We had a 478 megawatt project that came on last year in Texas, and it's performing well. One thing we did notice last week, we had a severe ice storm in the eastern half of our Texas Panhandle system. We lost 54% of our retail customers due to the heavy icing. And if you've heard, in Oklahoma, the utilities to our east are still trying to deal with major outages on transmission and distribution. So we had 148,000 customers in Texas out. We're down to just under 170 out right now. So we've done a great job. We've brought line crews from Mexico, from Colorado.
Yes, who am I hearing?
Oh, no, this is Commissioner Espinosa. I was just curious, for what amount of time were those outages when you say the hundreds of thousands were out? How long did those outages last?
I would say predominantly it was about 3 days. Of course, we were bringing on customers every day, just depending. But we had about 60 transmission lines that were out, that had literally had come down. So we had some small communities, rural areas. It really hits the rural areas harder because there's not as much redundancy. We did not have major outages in Amarillo. It was all sort of east of Amarillo, all the way down to the Lubbock area on the east side. That's where the heavy icing is. And ice is by far one of our biggest fears because it just overloads the weight on the wires.
Sure.
And then with the wind,
yeah, that's normal, and that's what people sometimes don't seem to understand. There's been a lot of outages here in northern New Mexico as well, so I can understand. So anyhow, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And David, one other quick question. On Sagamore with the COVID and all the other challenges, are you managing to stay on budget?
Yes, sir, we are on budget. We did work on getting through the SPPQ, but we are definitely going to be below the cost cap.
No, it sounded really good. No, it sounded really good.
Yeah, I think some people need to go on mute.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
But anyhow, so the short answer, Chairman Fishman, is yes, we are on budget and we'll be below the combined cost cap. And we're going to be on schedule. Now with Sagamore, that means that we'll be moving it into base rates. So we plan on filing a base rate case in January and in New Mexico, and then in early February in Texas. It just has to do with the timing of the different statutes in each state of when the test years work and everything. So it'll be similar to the last rate case we just went through. But the major investment will be that. We do have a lot of transmission investment that we're moving into rate base as we complete projects, especially in Southeast New Mexico. We're on schedule and under budget on our transmission construction. We have a great competency on transmission. So we do plan to have a virtual dedication on Sagamore. And then probably next year we'll have an in-person celebration once things get to be healthy again. But the project will be complete in December, so we're excited about that. It's a great resource for New Mexico. It actually supports our Texas customers too. And so now we're looking forward to what do we do next. And so we'll be talking to you about that in the future once we identify that. You know, Xcel is one of the nation's leaders on developing renewables, and especially at SPS, doing it in an economic manner for our customers. So now I'm going to move on to issues that we're seeing at our two coal plants. Tulk Station is the one that's just across the border from Clovis near Muleshoe. That's the one that I've talked about before about having serious groundwater issues. We use a lot of water to cool the steam back into a liquid so that we can pump it. You can't pump steam, so we have to cool it down, and we're using groundwater. The groundwater is depleting. It's coming out of the Ogallala Aquifer. And so right now, we think that we only have enough water to run that plant until like 2026 or so. So what we've decided is the best thing to do for our customers is to go to seasonal operations and shut the plant down 8 months of the year and only run it for the 4 summer months. That will allow us to have low cost capacity to meet customer peak demand in the summer out to 2032. And so this was an issue in the last rate case, and all the parties agreed that in this coming case we're going to file that we'll be moving our retirement date to 2032 for Tulk. Well, part of the deal is during the 8 months when it shut down, we still need voltage support and stability for the system, especially as we increase renewables on the system with more and more wind, like Sagamore and hail. So we're going to turn the 2 generators into what's called synchronous condensers. And that's where we detach the generator itself from the steam turbine. And then we use motors to spin the generator up to frequency and sink it into the system. And basically it's a giant electric shock absorber for the system, and it can absorb and produce VARs and help voltage support on the system, especially as we put in more and more inductive loads like solar and wind. So we think this is a great idea. It's going to be like over 1,000 megawatts of synchronous condenser. And so we're doing that for about $10 million each unit. And so we think this is a very low cost way of preserving the capacity for another 5 to 6 years, and also providing voltage support for our system as we integrate more and more renewables onto the system. It's pretty unconventional when you hear some of this stuff, but Tulk Station will be off of coal after the peak of 2032, and then it will continue to run in synchronous condenser mode after that. The generators can still be used as synchronous condensers long after 2032. Next, I'm going to move to Harrington Station, which is the coal plant just north of Amarillo. And around 2016, the EPA and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality determined that the county that Harrington Station in was not determinable whether it met the National Ambient Air Quality Standards for SO2 emissions. So they put a monitor out there for 3 years, and the monitor came down in 2019, and clearly the plant was not meeting the SO2 requirements under NAAQS, which is National Ambient Air Quality Standards. So we basically started working on with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality of what are we going to do? Now this plant is over 40 years old. It has a 60-year depreciable life right now. So we looked at, do we put scrubbers on a plant that's 40 years old and keep burning coal? That doesn't make sense because scrubbers cost, over $100 million each, and we have 3 units there. So out of all the options we looked at, converting the three units to natural gas made the best sense. When the plant was designed in the 70s, it was designed to burn either natural gas or coal. So basically, by the end of 2024, we will convert those 3 units to natural gas, and they will predominantly be peaking and intermediate use. And we'll be relying more and more on renewables on the system. So basically, when the sun goes down or it's not windy, we'll be running these on natural gas instead of coal. And we feel like this is the best answer for our retail customers in New Mexico and Texas. I don't know if anybody has any questions on this slide. I just have one more slide to go over. So we'll go next.
Go ahead.
You know, a big growth segment has been the oil and gas in southeast New Mexico, primarily in Lee and Eddy counties, where the Delaware Basin of the Permian is. That's the shale oil region. We've seen tremendous growth there. It's really interesting when we look at it, it's still growing. It's just not growing as fast. So we still are seeing growth in southeast New Mexico. And the reason is it's one of the lowest cost areas in the nation to produce oil. You know, that's good for the New Mexico state revenue and the economy. So we still feel like there's a good use for the lines that have been certificated in New Mexico. Right now, we'll see a pause in requesting new lines because we don't know that they'll be there. It just depends on the producers if they've sort of pulled back on some of their capital budgets, but they still are expanding in southeast New Mexico. Some of the older oil fields, like in the central basin of the Permian, we are seeing declines there, and that's primarily in West Texas, you know, just across the state line from Hobbs and going up. Then on advanced metering infrastructure, we have agreements with Itron, and we do have plans to be implementing advanced metering infrastructure. I think I've asked my team to look at targeting New Mexico first. And the reason is we have so many rural accounts where we're driving a lot of miles to read a meter, especially out in oil patch. Just the cost of it, the safety of it, it makes great sense to be putting this in communication so that these are two-way devices that'll let us know if a certain premises is out of service. And so we plan to file early next year, probably in the March timeframe, you know, with the advanced grid legislation for an AMI, advanced metering and telecom type infrastructure in New Mexico. We think it makes the most sense in New Mexico because of the rural nature of the premises that we serve. And the last thing is on, we've had a big dispute going on at FERC with a company that bought out the transmission in the Oklahoma Panhandle. I think some of y'all, I'm sure Commissioner Byrd, Paul, Espinoza, especially have heard of it. This is one where we're really fighting on behalf of our retail customers. This is not an earnings issue for the company. We just think that there's going to be an inappropriate cost shift from Oklahoma customers to New Mexico and Texas customers. So Bill, I'll let you just sort of give a brief update on this grid alliance and sort of explain a little bit, you know, like what the 7-factor test is and stuff like that.
Sure. Thank you, David and Chairman and Commissioners. I think most of you know me. This is Bill Grant, but wanted to give you an update on the grid alliance case that we have at FERC. We've actually had the hearing on FERC, and we just did the post-hearing briefs. At issue is there's a utility that we serve with our transmission company in the Oklahoma Panhandle. It used to be Tri-County Electric. They sold their facilities to a company called Grid Alliance. And Grid Alliance actually did a lot of upgrades, and then they went ahead and placed their facilities under the SPP tariff that we are paying those charges now subject to refund. We challenged the ability for those facilities to qualify as transmission. We're making the arguments that our customers do not benefit at all from those facilities. So we actually filed a protest at FERC claiming that those facilities do not qualify as transmission under the SPP tariff. So as David said, this is one of those issues where that load in that area is 2.7% of our transmission revenue requirement, but because of the upgrades and everything they've done, they're going to be knocking on the door 18, getting close to 20% of our Schedule 9 revenue requirement. And we think that's because of that cost shift and what's going on up there. We we are fighting that in our customers' behalf. So the post-hearing briefs from all the parties were due. I think FERC has agreed with us. David mentioned the 7-factor test. That's really just a test that you put on to see if those are really network transmission facilities or whether they act like local distribution facilities. In other words, do you have network flows to those facilities or do they act like load serving facilities? And that's the whole basis of our case. So if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can give you more details on what's going on there. And I have one other thing that I wanted to present on this presentation. David mentioned before about our environmental initiatives and stuff. So I wanted to talk to you about some of the renewable records that we have achieved in the SPS area. We've had the biggest hour that we've had served by renewable energies on the SPS area was achieved this year at 76.1%. So that means all the energy served on the SPS system, 76.1% came from renewables, and that happened on May 8th of this year. On a daily basis, we've had 64.2% of our energy served on a complete day, a 24-hour period, and that happened in April of this year. And on a monthly basis, we had a month that we achieved 39.8%. But one of the things I'm most proudest of is on an annual basis, year ending September this year, we've actually 32.7% of all of our energy served has come off renewable energy. So that's quite a bit. And we've always been, leading the charge on our renewables for the state of New Mexico, and these numbers do not even include the Sagamore wind farm that'll be commercial at the end of December. So with that, any questions on the grid lines or our wind records?
Commissioners? Yep, I guess not. But I do have a question on the advanced metering. And I know you guys don't have a terrifically peaky load curve compared to other utilities. But I was wondering, as part of the AMI installation, whether you had any particular demand response or other system balancing kinds of programs that you were planning to do in conjunction with that?
Well, we already have time of use rates in New Mexico. So I see that expanding. I think this definitely will give us more options for demand response and price sensitive. You're right. We have a very high load factor, mainly because of our industrial base that we serve, which is 50% of it's oil and gas. So this will give us more options in the future. So yes, it's also going to help on service and reliability and knowing when customers are out even before they do. Sometimes these loads go out and they don't even know it till a day later when they go by and check it.
Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Hall.
Commissioner Hall, go ahead.
So I was just wondering, I believe I understood from your integrated resource plan for SPS that there was going to be some integration of storage technology in the future. I can't remember when. I think it was 2024 or after. I just wondered what sort of plans you guys had for that in connection with the, implementation of other new technology and DER.
Yeah, we have a special group within the corporation that looks at new technologies. We're looking at batteries right now. We do not see them as economical at this point. I think it just depends on the cost curve of batteries coming down. But, Xcel was the first investor-owned utility in the nation to announce an 80% carbon reduction goal by 2030, and then an aspiration of 100% carbon elimination by 2050. And we did that in December of 2018. But we know we know we can get to 80% with renewables carbon reduction. To get that last 20%, it's going to take new technologies, including using more advanced renewables with batteries and storage. But also we're looking at advanced nuclear, small scale nuclear. We're looking at hydrogen, using renewables to basically store energy in the form of hydrogen in the future, and then combusting that hydrogen with oxygen, which basically produces, water. And so we're looking at all of those type of technologies. We know it's going to take a brand new technology, but we feel like there's plenty of time to get there by 2045 under the ETA or 2050 under our aspiration.
Thank you, David.
Any other commissioner questions?
No, but
Well,
thank you for your presentation.
Yes, Commissioner Espinoza, thank you. Well, thank you for the time today, and I hope to see you in person. I just don't think it's going to be this year. So we may plan this again after the first of the year. We're still at largely a work from home for the people that can do it. Of course, all of our service personnel have been out, and I really appreciate our New Mexico workforce. They're outstanding, and they've been over here in Texas helping us restore. So thank you. Have a good day.
Appreciate the
Best of luck to you all.
Thanks so much. Very interesting.
Okay. Next up, we have a presentation from Jacqueline Waite and Darren. And Darren, I'm afraid to say your last name, or Darren's not there.
Zigich.
Oh, there you are, Zig.
Yeah.
Darren, thank you.
Yeah.
And they're going to be talking about the energy grid modernization roadmap that's being done over at NMERD. So take it away, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, commissioners, for having us this morning. I'm Jacqueline Waite. I am a Clean Energy Program Manager in the Energy Conservation and Management Division over at ENMRD. And as you know, Darren Zigich is with me to help answer some questions. Before I start, I just want to remind you that the grid modernization stakeholder process is still very much underway. And so I will be talking more high level about what we are doing and not so much about what we are concluding at this point. There's one exception, is that I will be giving you a kind of a preview of some of the action items that our group is considering that may bubble up. They may end up bubbling up at the end of the conversation. We'll also give you a timeline of when you and the public can expect to see and review what we put forward. So next slide, please.
I already have a question, Jacqueline. Yeah. When you talk about action items, these would be recommended actions in the roadmap that you generate?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
So the grid modernization roadmap, as you recall, was mandated by legislation passed this year. It's HB 233. The legislation has three components, essentially. The first two implicate our department. We are responsible for putting together this roadmap, and we are responsible for standing up a grant program. The third component of the legislation impacts the PRC. That's in the green. So just wanted to point that out. You can go to the next slide. So we at MNERD have assembled a what we call a grid modernization advisory group. And this group has met virtually 7 times since September 3rd through October 29th. We met almost weekly, and we have made some great progress. We do have a final meeting scheduled for December 10th, and I'll talk a little bit more about the timeline for putting together the roadmap. Right now, the groups are split up into smaller working groups, and they are drafting white papers to explain some of those action items that we were just mentioning. Then those will be due in December. So you can go to the next slide, please. So we wanted to just highlight where we're focused, essentially. We do take a universal approach to the grid and considering the whole grid, but we are very much focused on the distribution side of the equation. I think if you click Chief of Staff Montoya, you can get, it's fine. We're focused on the grid, the distribution side of the equation. This is the biggest part of the equation by volume. This is where a lot of the vulnerabilities lie, and this is where a lot of the new technologies are focused. So, and I also like to point out that technical source that we mentioned, Darren and I drew very heavily on this series that the U.S. Department of Energy put forward on modernizing the distribution grid. And this is a great resource if you haven't had a chance to look at it. And I'll talk a little bit about it in the next slide as well. So if you go to the next slide. So this is about the road mapping process itself. As you can imagine, there are some steps in the process and an order of operations that we followed. The first step was really to think about why we're doing grid modernization. And of course, HB 233 and the Energy Transition Act are motivators for this. But in addition, the group came up with about 4 big picture reasons for why we are doing this. The second step was thinking about where we want to go, and we're really thinking about a 10-year horizon, given that technologies are changing and other things could change in that time period. The third part was really to think about, okay, now we know where we want to go. Where are we now? What does that look like relative to where we are now? And Darren and myself and Gabe Pasiniak at UNM Law School put together a baseline report so that we could all have a kind of underlying basic level of facts about where we are now. And we'd be happy to share that resource with you. The bulk of the baseline report is organized around a few functional and operational goals of the grid, and those come from that series, that DOE series that I mentioned in the last slide. So DOE took them from an analysis of other state legislative and regulatory documents to put that list together. And then finally, the group is looking at specific action items that will help respond to those drivers that we've identified and also serve those operational and functional goals. And so the next couple of slides, you can go to the next slide. The next couple of slides are the action items that were originally proposed, and I will say these have been changing even since I put this presentation together. So we have a lot of the big ideas. The actions themselves are being fleshed out at the moment. And I should mention the roadmap itself is directional and it's aspirational, but it is not prescriptive. So we are not saying these are the things that must be done. We are saying, the group is saying, these are the actions that have merit, and these are the things that we're going to put some time into thinking about how they could happen. So I've also note that I bolded some of the ones that might be more of interest to the PRC. We can go to, oh, I will mention too that, sorry, just at the back of the last slide, the group elevated some of these operational and functional goals, in particular affordability, reliability, resiliency, and security. Those are kind of the deal breaker objectives. So in other words, when the groups are working through these action items, they need to think about any positive or negative, especially impacts on these high level, on these primary objectives. So if it's going to have an impact on affordability, the group needs to explain and be transparent about that and justify the action. Okay, now you can go to the next one. Thank you. So again, we have about 14 action items. Some of them may merge, some of them may drop out at some point. I've also listed the primary operational or functional goals that these actions are supposed to be working toward, or that are the primary concern of that action item. I don't want to go too fast, but we can go to the next one. So this is a timeline of the rest of the roadmap development process. So again, we are having another final meeting on December 10th. We expect to do a public initial recommendation presentation on the 17th. We'd like to have kind of our formal draft finished by early January, then have a few months of public commentary and some technical review, and then finalize the roadmap probably in the April timeframe. And the next slide, please. So what happens next? These are some things that we at MNERD will be focused on. We, starting in the spring, will be convening a grid modernization kind of implementation group. And this group will be responsible for looking closer at some of those action items. A lot of them, we don't know what the impacts are going to be yet, and we probably need to do a little more research on those. And at the same time, we'd like to probably explore some policy solutions, depending on what bubbles up at the end of this process. So we'd like to see if there are some policy solutions to support those recommendations. As I mentioned, we are responsible for that grant program, so we need to seek funding for it. It's not funded. And then hopefully stand up the administrative structure for administering those grants. And then over the long term, we at MNERD would like to keep track of those implementation items and keep track of them relative to some metrics that we've established. So, next slide, please. And this is just our final slide. This is our contact information. I'm the program lead. Darren is the technical lead. He knows a lot about all of this, the technical aspects. And then we have another member of our team in the Office of the Secretary, who's a policy lead on our grid mod efforts.
So commissioners, any questions? Okay. I wanted to also introduce someone who's going to be working as part of this effort and coordinating with the PRC, I hope, Arthur O'Donnell. And commissioners, you may recall Arthur, who's I met on a couple of occasions with you all, and he applied for a grant from the Department of Energy for a fellowship to work on getting solar in particular is the focus, getting policies in place that make it easier, more efficient, and cheaper to do solar. And the fellowship that he's got is focused on two things. One is putting rules, seeing if you can design some rules and procedures that make it easier and more efficient to do solar vehicle charging at various places around the state. And obviously that could be part of shopping center parking lots and things of that nature. The second thing is to coordinate across the grid modernization effort. And part of that effort would be this particular grid modernization project. And in doing that, he'd be checking in with the commission. I would not say he is in, although I've agreed to sponsor him on this, he doesn't work for me. He's a fellow, and he really works for all of us. So that as this whole thing proceeds, he would be making a practice of consulting with all the commissioners, getting their input and finding a way to bring that into the whole grid modernization discussion. And his fellowship would last for the next year. Arthur, are you here?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, Chief of Staff, and all the rest of the PRC staff, and everybody out there in the radio land. I am especially grateful for this opportunity to work on some of the most important issues that New Mexico faces. And as you saw from the list that Jacqueline presented, issues that were going to be coming before the PRC. And it is my hope that we can get the PRC prepared to deal with these rather than have to react to them. So my role is really as a researcher and hopefully a facilitator of stakeholder process in which we'll be bringing some of these policy ideas to the commission, and you get to decide what you want to work on, what you want to have me work on. And I would bring together the kind of stakeholder group that's already proving to be very effective in the roadmap process to devise policy options for you to consider. It's very important that you see me as a support resource rather than somebody who's going to come in and try and tell you what to do, because it's really your job to determine what's the most effective, optimal policies for New Mexico going forward. I'm already working on the technical advisory group that Jacqueline referenced, been working in particular on the integration of distributed energy resources, and some of the items that I'll be working on would be perhaps updating the interconnection manual, perhaps devising the technical standards for advanced inverters that will help the utility and balancing authorities to see what's actually out there on the grid. But those are what I'm working on in terms of developing a white paper that will go into part of the roadmap as we go forward. So again, it is my pleasure to work with the commission. I spent 7 years as a supervisor at the California Public Utilities Commission, working on grid planning and reliability and safety issues. Moved to Albuquerque 2 years ago. My wife and I bought a house in Albuquerque here, and so I'm closer to the action. Although for the last year, I've been working remotely with the California Public Utilities Commission's Wildfire Safety Division, which was a new division. I was helping them get up and running before they move over to the Natural Resources Agency. So I have a lot of background. I was for 20 years a journalist covering the energy business, then an executive director of a nonprofit group that promoted renewable energy markets. So I hope to bring a lot of my experience and understanding of the system to bear in this task, and we'll stand for any questions that you might have.
So Arthur, are you going to be nice?
I am a very nice fellow. As one of my mentors in life said, my motto is now, "Hi, I'm Arthur, I'm your new best friend."
So I hope everybody will, communicate with Arthur. He's a great way for us to get our concerns over to this, in particular, this grid modernization roadmap project, and be sure that our commission concerns, particularly from a technical perspective, are handled in a way that we can be the best possible partners with all the other agencies involved and policymakers involved. And if there are no other questions, one last chance.
This is Arthur. I'll just state that my official start date will be December 1st. And the term of the engagement is for a year. So while I'll be working down here in Albuquerque, I'll be coming up to find you guys wherever your new offices are, whenever that's appropriate. But largely, I believe that we'll be dealing on Zoom and telephone a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, Arthur. And thank you, Darren. And looking forward to seeing some great results out of this project.
Thank you. Thanks again for having us.
Thank you. So before we go on to the next item, I just wanted to make a quick announcement. Just a reminder that the New Mexico Energy Storage webinar series is beginning on November 10th, being presented through Sandia Labs. So I just wanted to let everybody know that you probably received an email if you want to register. And it's November 10th, 10 a.m. to noon is the first of those webinar meetings. And it's concerning using solar PV plus battery storage to meet peak loads. And then there's three other webinars that follow that on specific storage topics. So just wanted to get that reminder out there. And with that, we'll move to the next item, which is public comment.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jason. We don't have anybody signed up for public comment today. Thank you.
Okay. And consent action items is next on the agenda.
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Byrd.
I have just a quick question. I don't want to move it to regular, obviously, but I do have a question for Hans on which one was it? It's the one with PNM and the official complaint.
Yes, Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you. Has anybody actually just gotten the actual meter reading?
Yes, they did confirm, PNM did confirm on that in their answer that they went out and did test that meter as well, and that the meter was in compliance. So it was really just the complaint itself really dealt with just the calculation of an estimate, but PNM has indicated that they have tested that meter as well to make sure it's within compliance.
And did they adjust the bill if necessary instead of a estimated bill, just an actual usage bill?
Yes, they did. And in fact, in their answer showed that what the actual usage was for the next month, and I think it was actually a little bit over. The actual usage ended up being a little bit over what the estimated was.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Burke. Would you care to move?
I'll move the items as presented.
And I will second. Any commissioner comments? Judith, I see your face, but I don't see Mike, so I'm going to ask you to call the roll.
All right. Commissioner Fishman?
Aye.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Commissioner Espinoza?
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar?
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd?
Aye.
The consent agenda items passed 5-0.
And we did not read them out. I think we should do that.
Okay. Well, then I need to find, okay. Jason is sharing the screen and they are entitled as follows. There are no transportation matters. And then utility matters, there's case number 20-00202 UT in the matter of the implementation of the federal 988 National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. and case number 20-00193-UT in the matter of the formal complaint of Robin Slay and Jacqueline Slay against Public Service Company of New Mexico. And those were the only two matters on the consent action items that were just approved 5-0.
Thank you, Judith. So let's go now to regular action items. No transportation matters. Utility matters. We've got, Judy, we've got you on for this, and this is the matter, in the matter of the adoption of an emergency rule, amending rules of procedure to provide for electronic filing. Take it away.
Yes, this matter, Commissioner Fishman and members of the commission, comes before you today upon the commission's own motion to issue an order initiating rulemaking and issuing a notice of proposed rulemaking to promulgate amendments to commission rules of procedure, and I'll name them 1.2.2.7, 1.2.2.8, 1.2.2.10, 1.2.2.11, 1.2.2.34, and 1.2.235 NMAC. They all arise out of our original emergency rule that provided for electronic filing. And a lot of these amendments are related to matters that deal with electronic filing. However, in the process of amending those sections, we found, and the hearing examiners also brought to our attention, certain rules regarding prepared testimony and transcripts that did not comport with actual current practice. So those, and there were several out of date portions in the rule, since it appears that it hadn't been amended in at least 10 years, if not longer. So those are all the amendments that are contained, and I can go through them if you would like me to, but this order would just initiate the rulemaking, and it would change the caption. The original caption was in the matter of the adoption of an immediate emergency rule amending the rules of procedure to provide for electronic filing. The new caption would list all the sections that I just stated and state that it's to promulgate, permanent amendments. In terms of the time frame, and this is just a time frame that I basically thought was reasonable, but I am totally willing to change it because we have 180 days from October 15th to make permanent the emergency rule pertaining to electronic filing. So we have until April 15th, that's the last date, that the emergency rule will be in effect. However, here, the deadlines that I set out would have us have the record close on February 26th and potentially do a final order in March after the legislative session ended. So the dates set forth in the notice are initial comments, January 12th, 2021. Response comments, January 26th, 2021. Public hearing, February 9th, 2021 at 1 p.m. Through Zoom. And then the record closing 2 weeks after that on February, 1 week after that on February 16th. And as I stated, and utility division staff is required to file comments. And at this point, I could go through in detail Exhibit A, which includes the amendments, or I could stand for questions.
Let's do questions and see what the commissioners want to, how much detail they want today.
Okay.
Any questions from commissioners?
I don't have any.
Yeah, I took a. Go ahead, Valerie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I don't have any questions, and so whatever your wish is to proceed with it, that's fine.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Hall.
I'd like to just move the order.
Okay, terrific.
Second.
Just a quick comment. First of all, was Valerie, were you seconding?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we've got a second. And just a quick comment, I gave a quick read through the rule and it looked like a lot of good common sense stuff. So with that, let's take the roll. And Judy, it's a conflict of interest for you to take the roll on your own item.
I see MC Smith on the screen.
So MC better do this one.
So Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioner Espinoza.
Aye.
Commissioner Bisseni Aguilar.
Aye.
And Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioners, the proposed order in case 20-00190 is adopted by a vote of 5-0.
Next item is public comment. Jason.
Mr. Chairman, hi, there's nobody registered, but I may have overlooked this. Did we happen to skip the utility matters under regular action item B? Also, on the agenda that I have, we have a case under utility.
We removed it.
We removed that.
Okay, that was removed.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, thank you all for that clarification. We don't have anybody signed up for public comment. Thank you.
Okay, and now communications with Chief of Staff. Jason?
Thank you. Let me give the floor first to Mr. John Reynolds, as stated on the agenda here regarding the statewide independent evaluator of energy efficiency programs, AKA Evergreen Economics, the contract extension. John Reynolds.
Yes, thank you, Jason, and good morning, Mr. Chair and commissioners.
Good morning.
I asked for the opportunity today to appear before you and to request your support for extending the contracts to the statewide independent evaluator of energy efficiency programs by 2 years. I provided a memo. I hope you received it. It should have been included in the packet that was provided to the commission. The memo provides some background about the statutory requirements for independent evaluation of the programs. It also refers to the section of the rule that directs the commission through its staff to select and direct a procurement process, competitive procurement process, to choose an independent evaluator. The long and short of it is that the utilities together, the 6 utilities that are affected, the 3 electric IOUs and the 3 gas IOUs who are required to implement programs, they currently spend about $45 million a year together in the aggregate of ratepayer money on these programs. And the purpose of the independent evaluator is for a third-party evaluation to take a look at the programs and to essentially verify or test the fact that they are cost-effective. So to make sure that the money is well spent and that the utilities get continuous feedback about the programs and about how they can be continuously improved. The amount of spending on evaluations is, again, as a group of 6 utilities, is $750 $70,000 per year. That's been the average 2017 through 2019. At this point, that represents about 1.7% of program spending, which is a relatively, based on my experience and overseeing this for a number of years, it's a relatively low number that compared to other states, it tends to hover between 2 and 4% generally. So we are generally at the low end for this. The current evaluator is Evergreen Economics. They were selected by the commission in 2017, and they are in the midst of their 4th year reviewing programs on behalf of the commission. This is not a PRC budget item. This is essentially a selection of an evaluator overseen by the commission, and the evaluator answers to the commission, but the evaluator, as far as contracts and bills and payments for their services, that's done bilaterally between the evaluator, Evergreen Economics, and each of the 6 investor-owned utilities who recover those costs through the energy efficiency rider that's approved by the program. So there's no impact on the budget for this matter. As I said earlier, Evergreen is in the midst of their 4th year review. They would still need to provide, once they've done their review, they would provide an annual report roughly next spring to cover 2020. And so normally at this point in the process, we would engage in an RFP process and to select a new evaluator starting with 2021. But under the current pandemic conditions, I wanted to come before you and recommend that we instead extend the contract by 2 years. And the RFPs I've done the last couple of them. This is some significant collaboration with the utilities, which is actually a very, from my perspective, a rewarding process for all of us to get together and work through the process and work through the selection process. And also deal with stakeholders like Southwest Energy Efficiency Project, who are very helpful and also testify in energy efficiency cases. So given the circumstances, I'm recommending to the commission that Evergreen remain in place for 2 years. I have reached out to the utilities about this, and they are supportive. And I've also reached out to the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project about this, and they are supportive as well. So at this point, I would ask for your support to allow Evergreen to stay in place for 2 years. And with that, I stand for any questions.
So, John, real quickly, this is just you're looking for an informal voice of support from commissioners here?
Yes, Mr. Chair and commissioners, I'm looking for your support or for an absence of opposition. That's generally how we've handled even the selection of an evaluator subsequent to an RFP. But I wanted to essentially inform the commission that that's what I would like to do, and get your informal support.
Okay. Well, so I'm going to just quick ask the commissioners down the line. Commissioner Espinosa.
Yes, sir. I move to support over the next 2 years his doc.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I agree. I agree with a great job John Reynolds has done so far. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Byrd.
No strong reason to oppose it.
Okay, that's reassuring. Commissioner Hall?
Well, I had a question. I was wondering why 2 years? Why not 1? I mean, this is a person with ordinarily a 4-year contract, and we're extending it for 2 years for reasons that sound like it's just kind of hard to talk to everybody. And I just I kind of wondered, why is it so hard and why is it for 2 rather than 1 year? I mean, I don't know. I just want to make sure we keep our nose clean with contracting with people. Can you just speak to that, John, a little bit?
Sure, Commissioner Hall and commission and members of the commission. I am recommending 2 years because I think there's just a lot of uncertainty going forward. I mean, I don't have any issues with revisiting this in a year, and that's perfectly fine with me. It is, based on my experience having done this in the past. I mean, the collaboration is extensive. I mean, this is one of those processes I think is somewhat unique at the commission, that utilities are very engaged as a group, and everybody in the energy efficiency world is collaborating on this, and we're talking to each other about selecting somebody and learning things. And I think it's been a very useful process to all the utilities, and certainly for me as well. And we have even had a Department of Energy consultant help us the last couple of times. And so we go through, we've been fortunate, I believe, to get significant competitive participation in these RFPs. We have gotten, I was looking up not long ago, we got 9 responses to the RFP last time, and we selected 3 finalists. We had in-person interviews, which each of the finalists in Albuquerque at PNM's offices. I mean, it's a significant undertaking. And so I think it's just much more challenging to do under the current circumstances. And that's why I'm recommending an extension, but I'm perfectly open to revisiting this in a year from now instead of 2 years from now.
Well, Mr. Chairman, John, I mean, I trust John's judgment on these matters. I just was wondering why it was structured the way it was, but I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Hall. And John, my understanding is that the working relationship with Evergreen is superior to what was going on in the past, that for some reason it just seems to be working better. Is that the case?
I think that from a commission's perspective, a commission staff perspective, our relationship with Evergreen is good. The prior evaluator was ADM. They were evaluator for 8 years. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the strengths of Evergreen is that being a small shop, that they are, I think their skills at communicating and reaching out to us at the commission staff level and to the utilities has been quite good. So I think that generally I've been quite pleased with their approach. They seem to be a little more customer service oriented, and the predecessor was more, I think their analytical skills were stronger, and but not that Evergreen doesn't have the analytical skills, but some of this process is analytical, but some of it is process driven, and to evaluate what things are working and what could be improved. So generally we've been pretty pleased. I mean, unfortunately with the pandemic, they haven't been able to travel here as much, but or not much at all lately, but they have come in the past regularly. They have presented to the commission in the summer of 2019, and I've asked them to plan to do it again, every other year, to plan to do it again next summer after they evaluated all of the utilities, so they can give you a statewide perspective on what's been going on with that.
Okay. So I think we have unanimous assent to 2 years, if I understand Commissioner Hall correctly. And thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I appreciate your support.
Thank you, John. Communications with General Counsel.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jason Still.
Sure.
Just a couple of items, if I may, just on communications with Chief.
Oh, okay. Sorry to skip past you there.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I know it was on the agenda, so I wanted to give John the floor first. First, I just wanted to say I'm happy to report that all seems to be well with all staff. Everybody's doing fine. As this COVID-19 pandemic continues to spread rather quickly throughout the state, I am constantly encouraging and reminding people to implement safe practices, especially our members who are out conducting inspections and investigations. So just a friendly reminder to all to continue to be aware of your surroundings and be aware of our best practices that we have implemented. Also, we will not be having another open meeting until November 18th due to next week's holiday. And on that on the November 18th, we do have an open meeting scheduled. We have also been asked to move our Legislative Finance Committee presentation to the same day in the afternoon, I think for 1 o'clock. And I sent out an updated calendar invite to the commissioners. I'm currently also working on the presentation itself. I have been told as of right now, we will be conducting that presentation virtually via whatever platform the Legislative Finance Committee chooses to use. One other good positive note is that for the most part, there's been a very smooth transition from office to teleworking with a few tasks that remain, such as getting everybody remote access to the servers. But IT's been extremely busy, and as has ASD in supporting staff and our needs to accommodate this teleworking environment. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I can stand for any questions unless you'd like to proceed either way. Thank you.
Any questions, commissioners? Okay, communications with General Counsel. Mike.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything today.
Okay, thank you. Communication with commissioners. Oh, quiet group today. I've got one item. We talked a little earlier about the list of policies or legislative actions that we unanimously support as a commission. I've gotten input on the initial list from everybody, and there's 8 items that everybody said yes to. There was 1 item that was vetoed, and there are 4 new items that have been suggested. So I'm going to send that out in the next day or two for everyone to look at. And if the commissioners are comfortable with that, we can then put it on the agenda for the 18th for discussion, which actually would be a terrific thing to do prior to the meeting with legislative finance. So any comments on that process? Does that work for people?
Mr. Chair, it works for me. This is Valerie, but I would recommend that you do work with Joe Maestas, because I'm sure he'll have some input and he'll be able to contribute to your agenda. And I really think it would be important to include him in, just for the sake of opening that door.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. And actually, you could probably help me out. I don't have his email address. If you could send it.
Yeah, we can talk. I'll get you that.
Terrific. And I'll be sure that he gets the same thing as all of our sitting commissioners.
Great. Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Okay. I believe with that, we can adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.